All right, so you're thinking of moving to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Some rank this, the #2 place to live in America, #2 city. It's got some of the best schools in America. Hey, that's got to cost a fortune. Well, maybe you should hang out till the end. We're going to go over some of the cost of living in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Hey, it's Travis Juntti with Living in Southeast Michigan team. Thanks for checking us out again. If you want to know what it's like to live, eat, sleep, work, play here in Southeast Michigan or Ann Arbor, Michigan, I'd like you to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the little notification bell to make sure you get notified anytime we put out new content. And look, hey, we get people reaching out to us every single day, and we absolutely love it. You can text me, call me, shoot me an email, whatever is the best way. Days, nights, and weekends, I got your back. As much as I love putting out content like this, I love even more helping you guys out finding a place to live here in Southeast Michigan. I am a licensed broker in the state of Michigan, and I'd love to help you on that journey. So let's get started on the cost of living in Ann Arbor. So when we're talking about the cost of living in Ann Arbor, Michigan, I'm going to reference a lot of this off of a little website called bestplaces.net, right? So we're looking at 100 as the national average in the U.S., and we're going to compare Ann Arbor, Michigan against that national average. Now overall, Ann Arbor, Michigan ranks about 10% higher than the national average. And a lot of that is brought in from the housing cost. And we'll go into that more later, so please stay till the end. So when we talk about these areas, a lot of you ask, well, where is Ann Arbor, Michigan? I tell you what, we're going to take a look at the map and we'll give you a better idea of where Ann Arbor is and give you a little bit of a demographic idea of what is it about Ann Arbor, Michigan. So Ann Arbor, Michigan, right? So if we're looking at Southeast Michigan, I always like to do this. So I kind of should have zoomed out my map here a little bit, but this is Metro Detroit coming down over here. So Ann Arbor, Michigan, we're sitting right over here on the western, kind of southwestern side of Southeast Michigan. So that kind of gives you an idea. So if you're living in Ann Arbor, Michigan, right, you're going to be relatively close to a lot of things, kind of southern Metro Detroit, western Metro Detroit. Unless you're going over to Grosse Pointe, it's going to be a little bit further, or northern metro, but you're in a relatively good area. But a lot of times when you're living in Ann Arbor, Michigan, you're probably just going to spend a lot of time in Ann Arbor. You don't really need to go outside of the city to find some things to do. So as far as Ann Arbor, let me delete this stuff here real quick. Let me zoom in. So Ann Arbor, Michigan, it has a population, and when I'm talking Ann Arbor, you can probably see this little red outline. It's kind of jagged, but I really use these freeways here. So if you're looking Ann Arbor, Michigan, you're sitting right at about 122,000 people, and with that, you have an average income. It sits right around 75,000. Of course, it really depends on the source that you use, but 75,000 is the average household income for Ann Arbor. And we'll touch on this more later, but the average housing cost for Ann Arbor, it sits right around that $550 to $575. So that really depends on the time of the year that you're looking. But that's kind of a good gauge, and that's residential, right? I'm not including condos and everything in that average. Now, first on the list when we're talking about the cost of living in Ann Arbor, Michigan, I'd like to touch on the grocery, right? So you have lots of good options for grocery. You're going to have your national brands, your Kroger's, you got your Walmart's, you got, there's a few, Target grocery, stuff like that. But you also have, the Costco's, or the Trader Joe's, or some other specialty places, Plum Market. There's lots of good specialty places depending on what your appetite is for grocery shopping, right? Some people like the more organic style, or some people might just like, what's the cheapest option, so they might head over to Walmart or Aldi or something along those lines. We come from a growing family. We got 5 kiddos, soon to be 6 here, depending on when you're watching this.
What'd you just say?
But so we tend to try to shop on the little bit more affordable side of grocery.
I'm cheap? You think I'm cheap?
So we might hit up Walmart. So, but overall, your grocery cost in Ann Arbor, Michigan is really on par with the U.S., right? It's right around that 100 score. Now, next on the list, you have your utilities. Utilities, that includes, gas, electric, water, sewer, trash, stuff like that, internet. Now, and I've talked about this on other videos. Your utilities is really going to vary depending on the seasonality. whether it's winter or if it's summer, maybe your furnace is running in high gear, your AC is running a lot, whatever that might be. There's a lot of older homes in Ann Arbor, Michigan, so your insulation might not be up to par.
It is freezing in here.
So there's certain variables that come into play. But I mean, as far as national average, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But as far as the national average is concerned, I mean, you're pretty much right on par with the rest of the U.S. I mean, that's the average cost for utilities doesn't really go way up or way down. So when you're considering utilities, like I said, you have your normal stuff. I mean, and depending on where you live, you might have some things included in your costs, whether you're in a condo association or if a lot of places, city of Ann Arbor might include your trash or things like that. So there's certain things that we look at, but it really depends on where you're at in Ann Arbor. But like I said, it doesn't have a big variance up or down. Now, the next thing I'd like to talk about is property taxes, and that has a lot to do with your housing costs. And what I'd like to show you here is the property tax estimator. I'm going to jump on the computer and give you a kind of an overview of what I'm talking about here. All right, so if we're talking about the property tax in Ann Arbor now, and you can really use this, and these are some things that we could talk about. Like I said, when we're doing a consultation, we can look at a map, give you an idea of where you want to move, and we can talk about the different costs of living. Maybe if you're looking to be, in Ann Arbor, or maybe you're somewhere else in Metro Detroit, we can talk about that. But for this video, let's focus on this. So if we're talking, so the SEV value, this is what we're going to enter in here first. I guess let me back up a little bit. Property tax estimator. So I find that by Googling property tax estimator Michigan, and that's when it pulls up this michigan.gov site, and then I hit on the begin estimating property tax. And for SEV is your state equalized value. So you have your taxable value, that's what you're actually paying on your taxes, and then you have your state equalized value, or SEV. The SEV is what you could expect to pay if you're purchasing a house. So that's the number that we use. And we touched a little bit on the average cost being like $550 to $575. So that's why I chose the SEV value here for $200,000. Now, if we're looking at $200,000, we're in Washtenaw County, right? So that's where Ann Arbor is. So I selected Ann Arbor, and I did Ann Arbor Public Schools. So for this instance, I'm going to pull up this little marker here. We're looking at Homestead, right? So Homestead you're going to be paying about $10,000 annually, and that's at a 51.3 millage rate. Now, if you were looking for a rental home, that's what this non-homestead means. That's where you'd be paying $13,000. So if maybe you're buying a house for your kids that are coming to the university, that's kind of what you would use the non-homestead taxes for. Now, if you were looking to maybe go outside of, maybe you wanted to be in Ann Arbor schools, but let me pull up my pointer. You wanted to be in Ann Arbor schools, but you didn't want to be in the city of Ann Arbor. Let's say you wanted to go to Lodi Township on the southwest side. You got Ann Arbor, where your taxes are going to be a little bit less. But the thing to think about, right, with Ann Arbor city taxes, there's certain things that are included in the taxes that you might have to pay, elsewhere, outside of Ann Arbor proper. But that's just gives you an example of the taxes if you move outside of the circle of Ann Arbor, if you're moving in different townships. And now, lastly, for the fun part, the housing. We're going to talk about the real estate of the cost of living in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And for this, what I'd like to do is we're going to jump back into the computer again. I want to show you some graphs, because a lot of times that's the easiest way to kind of get a grasp of the different costs of living in an area. So first, let's look here. So I have Ann Arbor School District pulled up here, and I also have Washtenaw County, where Ann Arbor is. Now, this is a 6-month rolling calendar, so it just kind of smooths out the line a little bit. But if you're looking at Ann Arbor School District, for instance, the Ann Arbor School District kind of goes, it's not quite the same as Ann Arbor proper. I can't really, on this specific graph, I can't pick just Ann Arbor as a whole. But this gives you a good idea, right? So Ann Arbor School District, we're sitting at about $555,000. And as you can see here from, we've had a little decline with the interest rates. They were going crazy. They kind of we're going up and up and up all last year, 2022. We're sitting in 2023. It's the April of 2023 currently, and it was we saw kind of a peak here in June, July time. That's kind of the same, for the most part it was the same nationally, same in Southeast Michigan, and from there we've really had a decline. It doesn't really show here because this is the 6-month rolling calendar, but we have started to hit started to come up here. So I went to a 3-month here, so this started to come up here as we're approaching the spring market. So for example, so Ann Arbor School District, you're sitting at about 556, whereas Washtenaw County as a whole, you're sitting a little over 100,000 less. In Washtenaw County, I mean, it does include some lower value areas as well, so it's not really the the best idea. But like I said, I can really help you out if you're looking at a specific area. But just this kind of gives you a 30,000 foot view of what I'm talking about. Now Ann Arbor, Michigan, this is another little local market update. This is March 2023, and this kind of gives you an idea of the inventory levels. I mean, right now we're sitting, this is from March. I mean, and we've had a steady decline. If you can look here, a steady decline, and this is in new listings. This is a change from 2022 to 2023. We've had a steady decline in new listings. We've had declines in pending sales and closed sales. Days on the market has gone up a little bit, and with that days in the market, we've also seen a little bit of an increase in months supply of inventory. But that being said, we're still at 1.7 months. I mean, our average market, neutral market, according to different sources, right, is sitting right about 5 or 6 months, and we haven't had a neutral market in the longest time. So we really have lots of demand here. Of course, with the interest rates fluctuating, it's been a little bit different there, but this kind of gives you an idea. Like I said, this is for residential. I mean, condo is down here, and of course these numbers kind of change a little bit. I mean, it's with only 57 listings and 78 listings here. These average sale price numbers can certainly fluctuate a little bit, but as you can tell, that's the wrong line there. But as you can see, I mean, we're a little bit less than we were last year over year. But as a whole, we are going up, as we're in this spring market now. Now, I really hope this overview of the cost of living in Ann Arbor, Michigan is kind of give you a better idea of what it might cost, to move or live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, or even Southeast Michigan as a whole. I've done several videos on different areas. I'd be happy to do more, happy to do a breakdown. If you're looking for a specific area, reach out to me. Like I said, I'm a licensed broker in the state of Michigan. Happy to help you out, happy to answer any questions you might have. But hey, you have to reach out to me, text, call, email, days, nights, and weekends, right? Ann Arbor, Michigan, like I said, according to different sources, I mean, it's one of the top cities in America, and I'd say it's a pretty affordable place to live if you're looking to live in one of the top cities in America. So like I said, that's all I have on this cost of living in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I wanted to break down the housing cost and a lot of the other costs. It's fairly normal with average with the rest of U.S. No crazy surprises. Look, I appreciate you watching the cost of living in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Now, till the next time, I'm out of here. We'll see ya.